Hey guys, Cam here from 9 to 5 Google, and this is the Huawei P9. It's the Chinese manufacturer's latest flagships, and overall, we're pretty impressed. Few phones match the pure elegance and finish of the Huawei P9. It is beautiful. The anodized aluminium has an attractive sheen and feels fantastic in hand thanks to the soft finish and the slightly rounded edges. Being only 7mm thin helps too. Those polished shiny chamfers around the front and back of the device and surrounding the fingerprint sensor on the back all add an element of luxury, and every so often the light catches it in the right way and you sort of fall in love. As if that wasn't enough, the entire front of the phone is covered in a single piece of glass. It's slightly curved at the edges, ensuring it blends into the frame rather than sitting awkwardly on top. This same glass features in the camera panel on the back, helping to hide the top antenna band, and praise be to the phone gods, the panel doesn't protrude from the back at all. I love how subtle its design is, despite hosting two cameras and Leica's branding. That being said, the ports and the cutouts on the bottom edge don't really line up perfectly. What's more, the anodized metal on the back seems very prone to scratching. Having owned it for more than a week, I already have 2 to 3 fine scratches without any unreasonable treatment. It's not waterproof or dustproof either, so not the most abuse-resistant phone around. But moving on to the display, and it may only be 1080 by 1920 resolution, but the 5.2-inch LCD panel on the Huawei P9's front is fantastic. Colours are very vibrant and detailing is sharp. As a bonus, it's surprisingly easy to see, even in bright daylight. While blacks aren't as dark as they would be on an AMOLED panel, they're still deep enough that you won't be complaining of them appearing grey or blue. Gaming and watching video on this panel was a joy most of the time too. The only time I had an issue with the screen was when it was close to my face at a certain angle. There was this weird sort of fuzziness, almost as if there were these diagonal lines going across the display, and I couldn't tell whether this was the pixel layout or if it was the touch sensor layout on top. Either way, it sort of made text look a little bit jagged, but again, it was only when it was close to my face and at a funny angle. And I'm yet to decide if the dual 12-megapixel camera setup has any real purpose, but it does take some fantastic pictures. One sensor is full RGB color, the other one is a monochrome black and white sensor. That means black and white photos should come off really well, and that harsh lighting conditions have little effect on the quality of the image. And in real life, pictures do come out really well, even if you have bright backlighting. Colors are accurate and details are sharp in good light. What's more, because of the Leica-powered software, it's easy to get the image you want. It has some very intuitive pro controls which lets you manually set shutter speed, white balance, focus, brightness and exposure. Thanks to that manual focus, you can get really close to your subject, enabling the type of close-up shots you don't get on many phones. As impressed I was with the daylight photography though, it's in low light mode that this thing really shines. It has some really fun features like light painting, but more important, the Pro Camera mode lets you set the shutter speed all the way up to 30 seconds, enabling really long exposures. That means you can capture shots at night time without getting the huge amount of noise you would normally get with a high ISO setting. And video recording in regular mode is decent enough, but if you do choose to go with slow motion, you will not be impressed by the quality. In slow motion mode, the images were stripped of any color and light was harsh and shadows were too dark and it just wasn't a very even picture. Moving on to performance and battery, and as usual, Huawei went with its own custom processor. The Kirin 955 boasts 8 cores and achieves enviable scores on benchmarking tests. Scores are one thing and real-life use is another, and thanks to some software tricks, Huawei's newest phone is able to stay fresh and fast. You can choose which apps aren't allowed background usage when the screen locks, and there's a tool to clear the device's memory of unnecessary and unused data files. It copes with most tasks comfortably. Switching between apps, sliding down the notification shade, and loading games is all generally speedy. There's the odd frame skipping in intense, fast-paced games, but it's not hugely inconvenient. And it has one of the fastest fingerprint sensor I've ever used. It's lightning quick, which is awesome. Battery life is more than acceptable too, and although the 3000 mAh battery probably won't get you through 2 days of use unless you're a very light user, I found it was more than capable of lasting until the end of a full busy workday with heavy use. With a combination of Android Marshmallow's doze mode and Huawei's own optimizations like the ability to kill specific apps when the screen is off, standby time is market leading. What's more, with quick charge support and Type-C connectivity, it doesn't take long to fuel up again. It's hard to know where to start with the software. Skimming over the basic facts, it's Android Marshmallow with Huawei's EMUI software on top. And I have to say EMUI has improved over the years, but it's not nice. And getting it to resemble anything close to regular Android takes far more effort than it should. Just basic things like changing the wallpaper on your lock screen if you have a magazine theme installed is a little bit tricky. Saying that, Huawei software does have some useful tools and features. Some of them are really nice to look at too. I'm just not a big fan of the lack of an app drawer or the icon design. But I can change those quite easily by installing a third-party launcher like Nova Launcher or a more stock-like Google Now Launcher. With Huawei for the past few years, devices have always shown that the company has great ability in creating awesome hardware, while software is generally awful. This time out, there's little different. With that said, load your P9 with Google Now Launcher and pretend it's stock Android and you have one of the nicest phones on the market. It has a lot going for it and it is considerably cheaper than a Galaxy S7. I've been Cam, I'm at Cam Bunton on Twitter, and I'll see you again soon.